the vast universe together. Video, let. And what interesting facts and mysteries about the ocean remain unanswered by humanity? What is the ocean? According to scientists, the ocean is defined as a place that can answer all human questions. What is the ocean? According to scientists, the ocean is defined as the area that occupies the majority of a planet's hydrospace. On Earth, as we know, 70% of the area is covered by water. And within that 70%, up to 97% of the world's water belongs to the oceans. Currently, the world has 5 oceans arranged in ascending order of area. They are the Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Indian Ocean, Southern Ocean, and finally the Arctic Ocean. All 5 of these oceans are interconnected, forming a large system called the World Ocean or Global Ocean. The area of the World Ocean is about 361 million square kilometers, with a volume of about 1.3 billion, and it does not include seas not connected to the ocean, such as the Caspian Sea, which is considered a saltwater lake. As the main component of Earth's hydrosphere, the World Ocean is indispensable to all known life. It is part of the carbon cycle, influencing climate and weather patterns globally. Moreover, the ocean is home to about 230,000 species, but those are only the ones humans know. Most remain unexplored. In fact, the number of existing species is even greater, estimated to be about 90%, meaning it could be up to 2 million species. To this day, humans still do not know the true origin of the ocean on Earth. Scientists hypothesize that they likely formed during the Hadean Eon. That is, from when Earth began forming and ended around 3,800 million, and played a crucial role in promoting the emergence of life on this planet. The ocean is divided into many zones or layers, depending on the physical and biological conditions of each. The pelagic zone includes all open ocean water areas, excluding the seafloor, and can be further subdivided by depth and light levels. The photic zone covers the ocean from the surface to a depth of this is the area that receives the most light, thus having the greatest biodiversity in the ocean, and is called the epipelagic zone. Since plants can only survive through photosynthesis, any life found below this depth must rely on sinking organic matter from above or find other energy sources. This often appears in the form of hydrothermal vents in the area called the aphotic zone, that is, all depths below 200 meters from the sea surface. The pelagic part of the aphotic zone can be further divided into vertical zones. Among them, the mesopelagic zone is the layer adjacent to the epipelagic zone, with its lower boundary at 10 degrees. In tropical regions generally, it lies at depths from 200 meters to about 1. Below this layer is the bathypelagic zone, between 10 degrees Celsius and 4 degrees Celsius. Lying along the upper part of the abyssal plain is the abyssopelagic zone, with its lower boundary at depths from about 4,000 meters to. The final zone is in the ocean trenches and is collectively called the hydropelagic zone. It lies at depths from about 6,000 meters to 10,000 meters and is the deepest, darkest, and coldest zone of the ocean. Along with the aphotic pelagic zones, there are also aphotic bendic zones. They correspond to the 3 deepest pelagic zones, the back, which covers the continental slope and extends down to about 4. The abyssal zone, this covers the abyssal plains at depths from about 4,000 meters to 6,000. Finally, a hadal zone, it corresponds to the hydropelagic, typically in the ocean trenches. The pelagic zone can be divided into 2 subzones, the neritic zone and the ocean. The neritic zone includes water masses directly above the continent, while the oceanic zone includes all the remaining open ocean area. It sounds complicated, but broadly, it's similar to on land. Bright areas are plains, while darker areas are mountains. At different altitudes, there are different vegetation layers, such as dense forests at the foothills and plains. Mid-mountain areas have coniferous forests, higher up are alpine meadows, and the peaks have permanent. To help you better visualize ocean depth, we will go into detail in the next section. First, you need to note that all objects submerged in water are subject to water pressure, and this pressure is proportional to depth. For every 10 meters of depth, pressure increases by 1 which stands for atmosphere, a unit of. This means that each cm squared of surface area bears an additional pressure of 1. If a person dives to a depth of 30 meters, their body must withstand pressure up to 45,000 or 45 tons, a truly staggering number. However, water pressure cannot crush a diver because an adult human body is over 60% water, making it difficult for external water to compress. This water percentage gradually decreases, but more importantly, the compressed air that divers breathe has pressure equal to the water pressure acting on it, helping create balance to counteract the pressure. However, the human body has its limits. The deeper you dive, the greater the pressure and the increasing stress. The body is forced to breathe more to get enough oxygen, leading to when oxygen is depleted during circulation. Only nitrogen gas remains, which easily dissolves into the blood, tissues, and this dissolved amount increases the gas pressure and time underwater. If a diver surfaces too quickly, due to decreasing water pressure, nitrogen in the blood expands rapidly, creating bubbles. This is a major challenge for free divers going deeper than 18 meters, meaning diving without scuba gear. The range from 40 to 60 meters below sea level is typically the maximum depth a person is allowed to dive and must use scuba gear. Next, at 100 meters depth, this distance is equivalent to the length of a standard 11 player. At this depth, you will begin to feel the immense pressure of water. Diving deeper than 100 meters often poses many difficulties, even with scuba gear and experience. However, that doesn't stop human limits. In 2007, an Austrian free diver named Herbert Nitsch began without scuba gear. In 2007, Austrian free diver Herbert Nitsch became the world's deepest diver without oxygen tanks, when he dove to a depth of 253.2 meters in the South Sea of Greece. That's right, you heard correctly. Herbert Nitsch dove deeper than 250 meters without scuba gear. To achieve this, he held his breath for 9 minutes and 4 seconds. Another record for this former Austrian pilot. And that's just the record of a free diver, or free diving in English. However, with full equipment, commonly called scuba diving, how deep can humans dive? A man named Ahmed Gab will give you the astonishing answer. In 2014, Ahmed Gab, a former Egyptian Special Forces officer, set the world record for deepest dive at 332.35. He took about 12 minutes to complete this feat. And to date, no one has surpassed that historic milestone. Beyond 500 meters depth, we might encounter blue whales, the world's largest creatures with body lengths over 30 meters. To visualize, this depth even exceeds the 461 meters height of Landmark 81, Vietnam's tallest building. Meanwhile, if the world's current tallest tower, Burj Khalifa in Dubai, were placed in the ocean, it would only reach about 830 meters depth. From 1,000 meters depth onward, everything starts to become much more terrifying. First, sunlight can only penetrate down to 1,000 meters below sea level. So if you dive deeper than this point, everything around you will gradually sink into darkness. From here, the water pressure you face is estimated by scientists to be equivalent to the pressure on the surface of Venus. The atmospheric pressure on Venus is about 92 times that of Earth. This means you would be in danger very quickly if you risk diving to depths over 1,000 meters below the ocean floor. At a depth of 1,600 meters, we could view the Grand Canyon, a famous canyon in the United States, and also one of the natural wonders of the world. From a depth of 2,000 meters onward, we not only have to get used to darkness and immense water pressure, but also to strange creatures. At the 2,000 meter mark below sea level is the habitat, a fish with an expandable jaw and huge, sharp fangs. From depths of 2,500 meters to about 3,000 meters is the absolute diving limit of this largest toothed whale in the world is also known as the ocean's diver. Because besides their ability to dive up to 3 kilometers deep, they can also hold their breath continuously. Additionally, at a depth of 3,000 meters, we can see the summit of Indochina if we inverted this mountain, meaning Thansaipan Peak, with a height of nearly 3,150 meters. Moreover, within the depth range from about 2,000 meters to 2,600 meters, there is also a mountain range called the mid-range ridge. This is a system of massive volcanic ridges in the Atlantic Ocean, formed by tectonic plates. The mid-range ridge is up to 65,000 kilometers long, more than 9 times the length of the Andes, which is considered the longest mountain range in the world today. From depths beyond 4,000 meters, we enter the abyssal zone, where water pressure exceeds 773 kilograms per square centimeter. Here, you will encounter creatures even stranger than the dragonfish above. For example, the fang-toothed fish or the anglerfish, also known as the fishing rod fish or lanternfish, because they have a fleshy part protruding from their head, called the elysium, which can glow and function as bait. Descending to a depth of about 8,849 meters, UFO is standing on the summit of Everest, the world's highest mountain. The deepest point humans have ever explored is at a depth of 10,935 meters in the Mariana Trench in the Pacific Ocean, achieved by two men named Don Walsh and Chuck Kirkpatrick in 1960. They reported that the ocean floor was bright and clean but quite desolate, with only diatoms living there. In 2012, director James Cameron, known as the father of the famous Avatar series, became the third person to explore the Mariana Trench after a journey lasting over 2 hours. And reaching a depth of 10,898 meters below. If you have ever flown in an airplane and gazed at the sky from over 10,000 meters high, especially at night, that is also a sensation you would experience when diving to an equivalent depth. Facts about the remaining 95% of the ocean. Surface and 97% of the world. However, only about 5% of the world's oceans have been explored, and the remaining 95% are still dark mysteries. Center to the moon. But there have been 12 people who walked on the surface of Earth's natural satellite. However, the number of people who have ventured to explore the Mariana Trench, the deepest place on Earth, is less than a handful. This interesting comparison shows that without needing to go to distant space, right in our familiar world, there are still many things left unexplored. Extreme pressure and the sunless deep-sea world are barriers that make ocean exploration extremely difficult. That is why the map of Mars is more detailed than the map of Earth's ocean floor. The depth of the ocean floor is just one part of the mysteries and facts about the vast ocean. Although very challenging, exploring the ocean layers will help humans discover more species, as well as better understand the formation process of oceans and Earth's history. The total length of the world's coastline is about 507,000 kilometers, equivalent to circling the equator more than 12 times. However, over 60% of the coastline in the Pacific Ocean and 35% in the Atlantic Ocean are gradually being destroyed due to increasing population density. And about half of the world's population lives within 60 to 100 kilometers from the coastline. At its widest point, from Singapore to Colombia, the Pacific Ocean is actually much wider than the moon. The distance across this ocean is 19,794 kilometers, more than 5 times wider than the moon's side. The average sea level has risen by about 10 to 25 centimeters over the past 100 years. Sea levels will continue to rise even if temperatures stop increasing, due to the ocean being disrupted, and coastlines will be higher compared to ancient sea levels. Sea levels will continue to rise even if temperatures stop increasing, because the ocean responds slowly to environmental change. According to researchers from Curtin University in Australia and Peking University, the Pacific Ocean is gradually shrinking at a rate of 2.5 centimeters per year, while the Atlantic Ocean is expanding at a rate of about 5 centimeters per year. Therefore, they believe that at some point, the continents on Earth will merge. The Americas and Asia will collide to form a new supercontinent called Amasia. Oceans also have their own sounds. Discovered in 1997, these sounds are called Bloop, a type of underwater sound with extremely low frequency and very high volume. This sound is thought to originate from the noise of ice cracking to form large icebergs, or when large icebergs collide with the ocean floor. In the Denmark Strait, which separates Greenland and Iceland, there is a giant waterfall called the Denmark. In 2011, it was recognized as the world's tallest underwater waterfall. Its cascade falls from a height of about 3,500 meters with a flow rate of up to 5 million cubic meters. The waterfall is formed due to the density difference of water masses on either side of it. The eastern water mass is colder than the west. Due to this difference, when the two water masses meet along the top of the strait, the colder and denser water sinks beneath the warmer and less dense water mass. An iconic mystery related to the ocean that we often hear about, from books and newspapers to movies and novels, is the mystery of the Bermuda Triangle. It is an undefined area located in the northwestern Atlantic Ocean and is one of the world's busiest sea routes. Ships must pass through here to reach ports in the Americas, Europe, and the Caribbean islands. Over 50 ships and 20 aircraft have disappeared in this area. The most famous is the mysterious disappearance of Flight 19, when a group of 5 U.S. military planes vanished from while flying over this sea area around 1945. Scientists today explain that in the Bermuda Triangle, there are giant air columns capable of swallowing ships and aircraft. Recently, American scientists claimed that giant hexagonal clouds with diameters up to 88 kilometers create massive air columns and move over the sea surface at speeds up to 270 kilometers per hour. That is the cause of the traceless disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle Sea area. In the South Pacific region, there is a location called the Oceanic Pole of Inaccessibility, also known as Point Nemo. South, 123 degrees 23.6. The interesting thing about Point Nemo is that it is only about 422 kilometers away from the International Space Station ISS, but about 2,688 kilometers away from the nearest inhabited area. No one. And this remote, isolated location explains the name of the point. For this reason, it is planned to become a resting place for the International Space Station. Most people mistakenly believe that oxygen on Earth is produced through the photosynthesis. However, the reality is that 50% to 80% of the planet's air is generated by marine organisms in the ocean, such as algae, coral, and other planktonic plants and animals. And it is estimated that there are about 4,000 coral species. However, about 60% of them are at risk of disappearing within the next 3 decades. Given their importance, you can imagine what horrors would await humanity if at least half of the algae, coral, and planktonic plants and animals disappeared from the ocean. Additionally, coral reefs in shallow waters also produce their own sunscreen and protect themselves from the harsh rays of the sun. So far, humans have only extracted about 150 out of a total of over 250,000 tons of gold, and it is expected to be depleted by 2050. However, at the bottom of the deep oceans, there are over 20 million tons of gold, but they are scattered all over the world, and humans have no cost-effective way to extract it yet. Imagine if we could extract all 20 million tons of that gold. With the current world population of about 8 billion people, each of us could receive at least 2.5 kilograms of gold. Not only on land with rivers and lakes, but even beneath the ocean floor, they exist. These rivers and lakes form when seawater seeps through thick salt layers under the seabed, causing them to collapse and creating subsidence areas. The dissolved salt makes the water denser than the water above, so it sinks down, forming rivers and lakes. They even have riverbanks, alluvial plains, and waves. Finally, the waves. The terrifying tsunamis we know can be over 30 meters high. However, the surging tsunamis of the ocean floor are even more frightening, as they can reach heights of over 240 meters before collapse. Additionally, tsunamis can travel across the ocean at speeds of 805 kilometers per hour, at depths of about 6 kilometers. Overall, we now know that the ocean has a depth of nearly 11,000 meters. But is that truly the deepest point on Earth? And how much longer will it take for us to explore every nook and cranny of that deep ocean? Subscribe to the Guy and Nico channel so you don't miss exciting videos.